when it comes to Bharat NCAP, and like I said, it is relatively young, and at the start, there was almost like, hey, you announced it, but then nothing happened, and now there's been a flurry of results. You know, we almost have one every few weeks. There is, you know, now a question on, is it the same as Global NCAP? You know, what was different about that, and what is different about Bharat NCAP? Basically, the confusion now, I think, that we keep getting as feedback from our viewers and consumers at large is this the real deal? I mean, should we just be buying a car that has the Bharat NCAP rating? Let me put it that way.
Well, first of all, we're hugely pleased that Bharat NCAP was formed, and I think, you know, in the first phase, the fact that it's now contributing more results is exactly what we wanted to see. So that's all very, very positive. So I think it's a little early to judge those sort of questions. But the key thing will be what happens in the next few years. The comparison I would say that's most interesting is what's happened, for instance, in the US. The US was the founder of the first ever NCAP in 1978. So they're the sort of mother of all NCAPs. It was actually started by female administrators, Joan Claybrook. So she literally was the mother of the first NCAPs. Now, in the last 15 years, US NCAP has not been upgraded at all. If you compare Euro NCAP in that period, has been upgraded 3, I think maybe even 4 times. So a standstill that has happened to US NCAP is really bad news. It's also, there's been a standstill on regulatory initiatives as well. And what we now see is that American vehicles are basically falling behind global best practice. In fact, some of the arguments, you know, some of the arguments you're hearing about trade access, in fact, it's been self-inflicted. It's not really unfair trade practices by Europe, Japan, or India, or anywhere. It's the fact that the US on its own has stepped back from these best practices. And so almost every car tested in the US NCAP is 5-star, when we know that they're not meeting pedestrian protection standards, for instance.
Not stringent enough.
Yeah, so they're clearly not stringent enough. Now, that is definitely not the way to go with Indian NCAP. And I think that's the sort of the learning is better follow the example, for instance, of Euro NCAP or other Latin NCAP, ASEAN. They all upgrade, they all innovate. And I think that's the greatest strength of NCAPs, is they can be innovators. The basic lesson is, if every manufacturer is getting 5-star results, then the protocol is perhaps not quite stringent enough, not stretching enough. 5 stars should be it's like winning the gold medal in the Olympics. It should be a big deal.
Not everybody can.
Yeah, if everybody got gold medals, would we still watch the races, the competitions? Maybe not.
Well, I mean, that's the fear, and I'll tell you, and this is partly my own assessment or my own voice, and then, like I said, I'm basing this on a lot of feedback or questions as well that come. That, like you said, if everything is getting 5 stars, is it not as stringent? Are there less teeth in this, or are we not declaring the non-5-star results? Because these are all voluntary tests. I know you don't have the actual answer to that. I mean, I want to give out that disclaimer so that nobody has a misunderstanding on why I'm asking you. But is that a fear for you as well? Because it is a fear for me.
Well, so I think for me it's a little too early to know are those issues there, and I want to give the best applause for the creation of Bharat NCAP and give them the time to bed in and establish their presence in the Indian market and as a champion of safety. So I think it's a bit early to know that.
Yeah.
If that was happening, I think it would be a mistake. But from a global NCAP perspective, we initiated the Safer Cars for India project with huge support from Dr. Balujan, the Institute for Road Traffic Education. We couldn't have done it without them. And we've seen the success that generated in improving vehicle safety has led to the creation of Bharat NCAP. But I think we just have to wait and see what happens next. But I do think the lesson is to avoid the predicament that the US has got itself into.
Yeah.
And And in the end, that, it's not in the interest of the manufacturers. I think there's always a tense love-hate relationship, and this applies to all NCAPs everywhere, with the community of car manufacturers. They sort of love it when they're doing well, they don't like it when they're doing badly, and NCAP is a sort of carrot and stick process. That's how the dynamic works. And I think one of the things is that the manufacturers themselves, in order to really benefit as a community from the way NCAPs work, is to allow NCAPs to be innovative. And that's the beauty of them. They can act quicker, in a more localized way.